Hello and welcome to Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. Today's show is a brand new, never been shared before on my show's episode. It was with Leslie Reichert from the Green Clean Talk. She's the green cleaning coach, and she's been on the show many times, although I don't know on this channel whether or not her shows have been published or not, but look forward to it if they haven't been. And if they have been, go back and look for Leslie's show. We've done a bunch of great how to clean and from very natural sources, which I'm all about, from baking soda to lemons, and how to purify your air. Anyway, Leslie's great, so I definitely invite you to check her out. We did this interview a little while ago, and it was about my new book, The Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame. And she's the classic person who has gone through menopause and is gained weight and finding it hard to lose it. And she's exercising a lot. And so she felt like that show was specifically for her. Now, one of the things that we talk about towards the end of the show is the live event that's coming up in January. So for those of you that haven't remembered or you forgot temporarily from last week, we are doing a live event in January called Releasing What Weighs You Down. And there's a new addition to the content we're going to be providing, and that is Lisa Thomas is going to be teaching us all how to muscle test. Now, you can go on YouTube right now and find videos on how to learn how to muscle test. And I've done that and I've done it. But what I really love about what she's offering is that we're going to get to test it in person together and have someone who does it really show us sort of the way. And you get to ask questions and you get to work with other people. The problem with learning something on YouTube is that you can't really see if you're doing it right and what may be wrong and how to make it better. So obviously having live feedback is very important. Now, why do you want to learn how to muscle test? Muscle testing, otherwise known as applied kinesiology, is a way for you to get biofeedback from your body directly. One of the things that we don't really pay attention to in our lives as much until someone calls us to pay attention to it is that we choose things based on what we think. And what we think is only a fraction of the information that we have. Our bodies are connected to everything in our bodies, as well as the energetic fields outside of our bodies and the energetic fields on the inside. And applied kinesiology, or muscle testing, could help you get in better touch with what your body wants and what your body is telling you it needs, and overwrite that logical, conscious, programmed brain that we have to really give us a little deeper understanding to what's needed, because the body won't lie. So I love that we're going to be doing that at the live event. There are some tickets left. So if you're interested, you can go to releasingwhatweighyoudown.com. You can even take 15% off. Use 15 capital OFF 15 off at checkout to get 15% off. And get your ticket soon, please, so it doesn't sell out. And if you're living far away and you're just not going to make it to California, although there are people flying in from all over, you can get a virtual ticket, and that will be for $197. You will get all of the materials, all of the lessons, all of the parts of the workshop that you can use at home at the convenience of your own computer on your own time frame. But I will tell you that once the event starts, the price will go up. So you're going to want to get that before the event starts, because it's going to be it's going to be taken down, and the price is going to go up because it's going to be fleshed out into a different product. So releasingwhatweighyoudown.com. And I really invite you, if you're someone who is clicked on today's show because you have weight to lose and you go through this cycle every year and you go on diets and you change your food and you exercise all the time, and you just know intuitively that there's something more, there's something missing. You probably have something you need to release on an emotional level that's keeping you in this pattern. And you're not going to find it in the gym, and you're not going to find it in your food. So please, truly, I don't know that I'm going to do this event again. Consider coming to the event, January 12th to the 14th in Los Angeles, releasingwhatweighyoudown.com. One more thing about today's show. Leslie and I have recorded many times, and both on her show and on my show. We've both been guests multiple times. Something about this past recording was a little bit different in terms of the audio quality. It's not terrible, because I wouldn't put it up if it was, but it is a little different, not as clear on her end and a little bit tinny on mine. So if you're used to the great audio quality that I normally have, just know that it's a little less than perfect. And I just want to put that out there because I want you to know that I care about that. And I make sure to really pick and choose the different shows that I do reproduce and repurpose, because some of them didn't make the cut. And they didn't make the cut because I just can't put out something where I think you're going to be challenged in listening to it in terms of the audio quality. All right. So thank you again for downloading today's show. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, please reach out. And I hope you're going to come over to releasingwhatweighyoudown.com to check it out.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Clean Green Talk. I'm Leslie, your host of the show, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. I want to let you know that you can go over to my website, greencleaningcoach.com, and listen to all the shows that we have here on the podcast. Today, I'm very excited to have a good friend and a frequent guest on my show, JJ Frazanes. She just wrote a new book called The Invisible Fitness Formula: 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame. It's an amazing book. I got the book after we spoke, and I was going through it, and I'm just amazed at what I'm learning from her. In the podcast, we're going to go over 3 of the 5 secrets, so you're going to love listening in. And once you've listened, you'll probably want to go buy the book. Since we've done the podcast, she's been interviewed all over the country. If you put in the Invisible Fitness Formula, all you get up is all the publicity that she's getting on this book. So I'm going to make sure you can get right to the link and see the book and purchase it. Now, it is available on Amazon. It's only $9.99 for the Kindle version. It's $19.99 for the paperback. But either way, you're going to love what she's talking about. So listen in. This is going to be a great show. So tell me a little bit about the first chapter. I feel like I said, you're talking directly to me. Divorcing the scale.
Right. There are mean goals and end goals, like a way to get to some place. And so what that means is like the reality of it. Like what people want to lose weight. Why? What's the motivating factor? And the scale is only going to tell you. In fact, I was just dealing with a client this morning who felt like she for sure thought she was thinner and tighter and all that stuff. And she actually got on the scale and she found like she either hadn't changed or she was a little bit more. And she's like, but the good thing is I'm not upset about it. And she was just confused. Well, first of all, she's only using one way of measuring, and that's the scale. And we've been doing some resistance training, so there's a good possibility that she's built muscle. So divorcing the scale is just about that relationship, the very dysfunctional relationship that we use with the power that we give to the scale to decide if we're going to like ourselves or not, or be happy, or think what we're doing is working. And it's one number, and it's not even an accurate number to see what's really going on.
I love that, though. Like you said, it's just one way of measuring something. And It's like we put all of our eggs in that one basket, which is our scale. And you know, you could be 102 pounds, but look awful if you think about it. So I love that, because I play that game with myself all the time. It's every morning I get up, get on the scale, and it actually controls how my day is going to go. Yeah.
Well, that's what we don't want. That's the dysfunctional part.
So I said, you're talking to me. This is great. Yeah.
Yep.
So do you recommend just walking away from it totally, using it once a month? How do you recommend
using it like my client just used this morning when you're feeling really good, because knowing that number is not going to sway you because you already feel good. You feel good. You feel like you look good. Your clothes might feel differently on you. Because really, if you just liked the way you looked, you wouldn't care what the scale said. If I gave you the choice of a number on the scale with a body shape and texture that you didn't like versus a body shape and texture that you loved, but it was a number you didn't like, which would you take? You take the one where you like the way you look. You wouldn't care what the number is. The number is just it's a almost somewhat random idea about what something should look like.
Right. You know, and if you go to like a lot of the weight loss centers, they focus totally on the scale. You go in, you have to get weighed, and it measures your success or your failure based on what that machine says.
Right.
And now that you think about it, you're like, wait, why am I going to give that thing so much power?
Right. Yep. It's a total lack of power all the time. We become powerless and victimized by the scale. So the divorce of the scale has to really, do with the dysfunctional relationship that we have with the scale, giving our power away all the time. And it's really a random number. And the other thing it doesn't really tell you all that it needs to tell you about your health or your trajectory. So for instance, when you're 30, 40 years old, let's say between the age of 30 and 40, and your weight stays the same. Let's pick a random number. Let's say 130 pounds between age 30 and age 40. You're probably thinking, and imagine that you've done no working out, no resistance training, no strength training, maybe a little cardio here or there, a little yoga here or there, but nothing really structured. And in that time frame, you're probably thinking, I'm doing a good job because I'm at the same weight. But what you don't realize is that underneath the weight is what your mass is made of. That weight is your mass number, and it includes everything from your bones to your blood to your skin to your hair to your nails to undigested food to the water in you and any thing that hasn't been eliminated from you and your muscle and your fat. It's not a fat number. It's not like you step on the scale and that's like how much fat you have. That's just how much everything together weighs. And it fluctuates. And if we break down what is that number made up of, there's going to be a percentage of fat and a percentage of muscle and then a percentage of the rest of it. And that's an important number to know because what makes up your metabolism is how much active tissue you have, how much muscle, how much soft tissue that needs energy in order to function. Let's say your digestive system, for instance, or your brain or your nervous system. All of that is important for metabolism as you age, because as you age, you lose hormones naturally. And hopefully people are not as taboo about thinking about bioidentical hormones anymore, because they really are the best way to preserve your hormones and to maintain optimal vitality throughout the rest of your life so that you're not on a decline. But if you're still thinking those studies from long ago had anything to do with what we know now and have been for 70 years, and you're a little apprehensive, okay. So let's just assume that there are ways to do it naturally, not quite as effectively, but there are ways to work on your hormones and help you produce your own hormones naturally. But your hormones are going to decrease regardless whether you supplement or not. And when they do, then you're less likely to be holding on to the muscle. It's going to be harder to build it and be harder to maintain it, which then means your metabolism number goes down. So if between the age, let's say at 30, somebody was burning, let's say, an active resting heart rate, active resting metabolism of, let's say, 1,000 calories a day. And that's kind of an average. That's maybe a little higher for some people, but let's say 1,000 calories a day is what you're burning at rest. And by age 40, you're down to 700, but you're the same weight. So what does that mean? That means that over time, as your hormones continue to plummet, if you're not building muscle or replacing your hormones, it means it's going to be harder to maintain that mass, and you've actually lost 15 pounds of muscle and gained 15 pounds of fat. So that number composition has changed in 10 years. 15 pounds. 15 pounds of more fat and 15 pounds less of muscle, approximately. Okay, rough numbers here. But so it's really important, and it's been one of those things. I mean, I've been doing this since I was in my very, very, very early 20s, and I understood metabolism then, and it's been 20 years, and I'm now. It never ceases to amaze me, sort of the idea that people don't understand. Like, menopause happens, they gain weight, they're exercising, and they go, well, how did that happen? I'm like, it's a concept that's not hard to understand if you're paying attention. And I guess most people aren't paying attention because whether, somebody who's gone through this. Everybody knows somebody who's gone through menopause or andropause and gained weight. Everybody. And it becomes I would like to make sure that I've educated enough people that you can plan for this. And if you haven't planned for it and you're in it or you're over it, the next thing to think about is, how do I fix it, or how do I correct it? And how you correct it is to add active tissue. You need to increase your metabolism. Another way would be bioidentical hormones, but if you're not going to do that, you have to build muscle, because that's the only other option naturally that you have that also builds bone, that also creates stability in your body so that you have less injuries. So, in terms of muscles and joints and doing the same activities in life and making sure that you don't get injured. So it's really the best way, and you will produce your own hormones once you start doing resistance training. So back to the scale, if you're just looking at the number, there's lots of ways to get to that number that aren't healthy or that aren't sustainable. And that number doesn't tell you that your metabolism is high.
Right.
It doesn't tell you that your body fat percentage is low. You could be at the same weight and be clinically obese. I had a girl once I tested in New York City when I was working at New York Sports Club. She was less than 100-pound Asian woman who, of course, she's like a rail, and everyone's like, oh, she has no fat. She needs more fat. Even she said to me, oh, do I need more fat? I said, no, you need more muscle. She was clinically obese. She had 32% body fat on a 98-pound frame.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
a third of her body weight of fat.
Oh,
so so that's not healthy.
Right.
Because that's not high metabolism. So if her lifestyle ever changes, she'll gain weight very easily and it'll be very hard to lose it. So this is where the scale cannot be the way that we measure what's going on in our body. It's one number. And the scale can't be what decides if you're happy or not. As like I said earlier, if I gave you two choices, here's the body that feels and looks awesome to you, but the number is higher than you're comfortable with. Or here, I'll give you the number on the scale, but you're not going to look like you think you're going to look. Which one would you take?
So, JJ, you mentioned two things that I want to go back over. So the bioidentical hormones, you mentioned those twice, and I have no idea what you're telling me. Tell me a little bit more about what you're talking about there.
In the book, it's actually secret number 3. And in the book, so the book is called The Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame. And the first secret has to do with, we'll just jump to the third secret. The third secret has to do with hormone replenishing and replacement. And bioidentical hormones have been around for 70 years and been used successfully with no problem. When Premarin and Prempro came out, they were pharmaceutical hormones. They were created, so bioidentical means they're biologically identical, right? Bioidentical to what you produce in your body. They're made from plants. And when they get into the body converts them into something it recognizes and uses it the same it would as hormones that you create within your body. So for instance, everyone thinks that you should be avoiding egg yolks. That is so far from the truth. You need the cholesterol in the egg yolks to make your hormones. And that egg cholesterol BS is so old that data is not even accurate. But everyone's avoiding egg yolks because they think it's going to make them fat. And then they wonder why they feel crappy. And it's because you're not getting the substrates out of your food that you need to make your hormones. So please eat your egg yolks. Eat the whole egg and eat more than you think you need to. 3 a day is just fine. You don't have to avoid eggs. And if you're talking about cholesterol, that's a whole other issue. So bioidentical hormones are hormones that we pull from nature that end up convert in the body and recognized as your own hormones. Now, we have synthetic hormones that are out there. And at the time, and I even interviewed a doctor, I've had 2 physicians talking about bioidentical hormones on my show. And they're both very pro bioidentical. One's a female, one's a male. And Dr. Elizabeth Plord, the female, she researched the crap out of all of it because she's a researcher. She's actually not a physician that works with patients. She's a researcher. And she researched back when Premarin and Prempro came out what the effect would be on the body. And she saw before it happened that it was going to cause problems. And she let somebody know, and they kind of shoot her away. And the next thing you know, they're taking them off the market, or there's this big breast cancer study that links breast cancer to some of these hormones. And no one has ever forgot that. But no one has ever looked at the fact that these are synthetic hormones. They're not bioidentical. They're made from horse urine. They are synthetic, made in a lab. Now, I'm not saying the bioidenticals they have to be made in a compounding pharmacy, but it's different when they're chemicals. And also, of course, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to use bioidentical because they can't patent them. And then therefore they can't make millions of dollars off of them. So they don't, and they would help fix a lot of our aging problems, which would eliminate half the medications people take. So they're a threat to the pharmaceutical industry for sure, but they're a blessing to us because of so many reasons. And I list them in the book, and I list all the different hormones that you need to pay attention to and all the ones you want to get tested by your doctor to be out ahead of it. Most of aging happens because we start losing some of the things that we have that keep us together. And hormones are a big, big part of that. And we all assume that aging is a decline. I'm going to decline. My bones are going to get brittle. I'm going to get weaker. I'm going to get tired. Like all these things that we assume, it's because we've lost the hormones to maintain optimal vitality. But when you put them back in, you're optimal and you're healthy, dead versus healthy, decline, cripple, dead. Right. So that's the choice of the path. And some of us would rather be healthy, dead than to decline because quality of life is not good. And what you can and can't do, not to mention your healthcare costs are going to go way up because you're going to have to facilitate compensating for the decline, whether it be in nursing homes or with extra care, with extra drugs. So it's just, so bioidentical hormones are, I think, done very well with the right physicians. And if you want to just monitor yourself, preventative functional medicine is about getting out ahead of what's going on. You understand what's going to happen to your body and you do something about it before it happens. It's like maintaining your car. It's like, if you live somewhere where there's snow like you do and rain, you make sure your tires aren't balding because you don't want to have a slide and then a crash. You stay out ahead of it because you know what happens if you don't. And so it's the same thing with our bodies. And I have listed for everybody in the book and on the resources on the website. You can download a list to take to your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't do it, there are plenty of places you can get it done. You have to pay a little bit, but it's worth it to just see, where am I going? Where am I headed? Where am I right now? And do I need to do something about it right now to maintain where I am? Because healthcare in our country isn't healthcare, it's sick care. And you only need it when you're so declined that there are problems.
Well, I'm glad because I've been dealing with this with my doctor. So I'm through menopause. I've gained the weight. I exercise every day. Probably not the right, but that's the other question I wanted to ask you in a minute. But I've gone to my regular primary care, and I'm like, is it my metabolism? And she's like, well, we'll test for it. Now, I don't think she ran tests for my hormones. I think she tested my thyroid. She tested some other things. And she comes back and says, nope, you're normal. And I'm like, I can't be normal.
Well, but here, Leslie, you may be normal for your age range.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
That is what healthcare and Western medicine does. They expect you to decline. They expect you to be on certain meds at a certain age. And if you're not, then you're doing really well. Right? So this is the expectation. That's sort of the paradigm problem with, in my opinion, Western medicine. I mean, it has its good parts. It can save your life and fly you and do all kinds of surgeries and things, and that's great. But it does a terrible, terrible, terrible job of wanting to keep us alive and healthy and well and whole as long as possible, because we just assume. And then a lot of physicians are also, back to the bioidenticals, they're threatened by that too. They think they haven't read the research. There's so much research supporting bioidentical hormones being safe that they help prevent fractures. And there are more mortalities that happen every year from fractures than there are from breast cancer. Someone can live with breast cancer for years and years and years. Not that I'm saying, if you had to pick which one to live with or have, but people recover and live long lives with breast cancer or after breast cancer, but fractures, you'll die within a year. So in terms of mortality, bioidentical hormones are great in that way. And so when it comes to your metabolism, I'll send you a link. Actually, the link might even be somewhere in the book or in the materials. After you get the book, you can go to the website and download all the extra materials. And there is a body fat percentage testing in there. And that's how you're going to look at what's my body fat percentage. And then you can track that, and is your exercise making a dent in that? So let me ask you, what kind of exercise are you doing?
Well, that was my other question, because you kept saying resistance, and I'm thinking, I walk 5 miles a day. I walk 5 miles a day every day. But again, I'm just doing this cardio, and it's not building any muscle.
Correct. And you're good at it. And it's not building any muscle. And actually, you may be losing muscle because you're in that aging process. So as we lose weight, like let's say someone who is 200 pounds and someone who's 100 pounds, it's a lot easier to move a lighter person. So there's twofold here. There's when people lose weight, I know you're not saying that that's what's happening, but when you lose a little bit of weight and it comes from fat and you haven't replaced it with muscle, your metabolism still slows down, even though you've lost weight, because it takes less energy to move a lighter person. Mm-hmm. For you, there's bone we need to be worried about. You maintaining your bone and your stability and not having hip fractures and hip issues in the future, as well as shoulder, whatever. Any part of you don't want any issues at all, but no resistance training. That is using weights or bands or tubing or water or body weight. There's many ways to provide resistance, even air sometimes, with very specific muscle building exercises. And I'll tell you, I'm working with a woman right now. She's 60. I'm her 9th trainer.
Oh my gosh.
And part of it is because some of her trainers have moved away over the years. Like, she's had a trainer for a long time. It's just part of her lifestyle. She'll never not have a trainer. And so she's had a trainer for 15 years. And she's had physical therapists as trainers. She's had marathon runner trainers as trainers, a lot of men, maybe 1 or 2 women. I think I might be the 3rd woman. And she hired me because she was frustrated with the last guy that she was with, because she wanted to be leaner than she was. And she just wasn't feeling she was getting the results that she wanted. And so I'm more expensive than the other guys. But when I asked her, what kind of workouts are you doing? It was very clear she wasn't doing any muscle building workouts. So of course you're not getting any leaner, because you're not building any muscle. You're just doing things that you're good at. You're doing a circuit training program and doing a lot of things, and you're not being specific about any of it. So she signed up. We started working. Every single thing I've told her to do has worked. even when she's sitting in the emergency room because she thinks she has something, and I tell her to ask the doctor for this. If you get antibiotics, which you're probably going to, please take a probiotic. Of course, she runs up by the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, I agree with that. So at every turn, when she's like, really, I should eat 3 eggs instead of 2? Really, I should eat a whole avocado? Wasn't that bad? But every time, every suggestion has worked. And she's feeling leaner. She's feeling less, like her stomach is flattened. But she said, yes, no one has ever worked me out like this. No one. 9 trainers, Leslie, and some of them physical therapists. So what I'm saying to everybody is that not all exercise is equal. And most women are so afraid, and even men with women sometimes are afraid to actually put them through a safe, that's a whole nother story, and effective resistance training program, because most women think, oh my God, I don't want to look big and bulky. Listen, do you know how long it takes to get big and bulky? First of all, you don't have the hormones to do it. Second, there's no way you're going to work out that much to get big and bulky. If you have that problem, you will be happy, because your body will look so different and feel so different. Your metabolism will be off the charts. But most people avoid resistance because they think all of a sudden they're going to lift a weight and they're going to look like a bodybuilder. And that's so far from the truth. Most of my clients, especially women over the 20 years I've been doing this, the more weight they lift, the smaller they get.
Yeah. And, and even look at the women bodybuilders. I mean, to get to that point where they look very, very muscular, they have absolutely no body fat, right?
And some of them are juicing and taking steroids.
Right.
And some of them are taking creatine. This is that's a whole nother dysfunction, actually, because it's like the opposite of, or the same of, but in ways opposite of anorexia, right? You're still really so focused on what you look like on every level that it's still narcissistic in that way and not necessarily healthy for somebody. I'm not talking about that, but so people go to extremes. So your walking is good for your health, but it isn't helping you with your metabolism.
Good. Now, one other chapter, we've got 15 chapters, and I don't want to give the entire book away, but the one other thing I wanted to talk about with you real quick is the understanding of sugar. And this is kind of a point that, even I have with my family, is that we've taken sugar mostly out of our diet, except for one person. He will remain anonymous. My husband refuses.
So that's real anonymous.
No, we've all been trying to tell him, like, you just can't have the sugar. It's as addicting as cocaine, and he just won't believe it, and he won't let go of it. But I'd love to hear your explanation and your understanding of the sugars. So
every carbohydrate turns to sugar. Every carbohydrate. Bread, corn, vegetables, fruits, rice, pasta, beans, all of it turns to sugar. That's the number one thing people need to understand. So when we're not just talking about white table sugar and reducing that. When something is that close to fructose, table sugar, it doesn't have long to convert into glucose. And glucose is like your energy of your body, the fuel of your body, which you need. But But trust me, we all have plenty of it because we have glycogen stores in our muscles that hold on to the sugars that we extract from our foods, because a lot of the foods that we eat are going to have some kind of carbohydrate. If you have a salad, all those vegetables have carbohydrates. Your juices, that has carbohydrates. So there are carbohydrates in a lot of the foods that we eat. And unfortunately, we have a very carbohydrate-rich diet. But people think, oh, we'll have to get rid of the white table sugar or the sweets. But the bread turns to sugar just as fast as the sugar does. So we're looking at, and gluten, the things that have, wheat and, rice. Every carbohydrate turns to sugar. So first of all, we have our body's inundated with glucose all the time, and most of us don't need that much energy. We don't need that much fuel. It's like pumping gas into your gas tank and having it overflow, but standing there anyway while it just drops out. Our tank doesn't say stop. How we know we're overflowing is because we gain weight and we feel sluggish and we have cravings. Those are some of the side effects of all this sugar in your blood because you haven't actually used it. My father had an accident, whether it be, we're not sure what exactly happened, but he was in the shower and he fell and he hit his head on the counter and he passed out. And the paramedics came to get him and my mother was freaking out, of course. And then, of course, they waited to call me till they are at the hospital. And my dad is someone who loves his bread. And he's not overweight. He's more slightly over fat because he's aging. He's in his early 70s, and he doesn't do a lot of resistance training right now. Of course, they have a trainer that they could use at any time, and it wouldn't cost them anything right now. But my parents haven't even gotten on my schedule yet. So people's habits are hard to change sometimes when they're not completely invested. But I had them out here for my book launch. I took them to the doctors. We talked about bioidentical hormones. We did the whole 9 yards. I went to acupuncture. I took them to an energy clear. I did the whole gamut with them. And when I got back this last time, I was back at home and my father, I looked at him, I said, I think you've lost a few pounds. Again, he's not my father. I would never clarify him as overweight. But I said, looks like you've lost a little bit of weight around your middle. And he said, well, it's because I've been eating less bread. But I proceed to watch him eat bread at breakfast, eat bread at lunch. I go, Dad, where's the less bread? He goes, oh, I don't have any bread at dinner. I was like, okay. I bought him for Father's Day, Grain Brain, which is a book all about the effects of grain and sugars on your mental health, on your emotional health, and on your body. And so he did start to read it and he got that. But we eat most of our meals are sandwiches or toast or wraps or pastas, or there's potatoes, or there's a rice underneath the meat and the veggies and all of that. Okay. So back to my dad. So my dad falls down. He goes to the doctor. He hasn't eaten for a while. And somebody told him at some point he was hypoglycemic, which is why he thinks he needs to eat every couple hours. Well, he's not. Somebody was really, really wrong. His blood sugar was 107 after hours and hours and hours of not eating. I said, Dad, you're not hypoglycemic. That's high blood sugar for you not eating for hours and hours and hours, which lets you know that we eat more than we think we need. And people have told you, eat for every couple of hours and eat a handful of this and that. And, maybe you might need that if you're training for something or if you have a really high metabolism or if there's other medical reasons why you need that. But we eat too much and most of us have too much blood sugar flowing around. So what happens is it turns into fat because we're not using it. Once all your muscles have all the glycogen stores they can handle, then you've got all this blood sugar flowing around your body and the pancreas keeps put out insulin to try to deal with the sugar. And by the way, insulin is a really aging hormone. Insulin will age you so quickly. That's why a lot of people who eat crappy foods. So another way to maybe try to persuade your anonymous husband is to tell him that the sugar that he's eating creates his pancreas to put out a lot of insulin, which was going to break down his body. It's a very hard hormone on your body in terms of aging, especially when you don't need it. Which is what happens when people do diet drinks. When you drink diet sodas and have fake sugars, your body doesn't know it's fake. It sends a message something sweet is coming and you put out insulin anyway. So you're not really helping yourself by having diet anything because the body still puts out the same amount of insulin because it thinks it has a lot of sugar coming. So So also not a good thing. So understanding sugar is really the basics of it. If you're going to count anything, I'm not a calorie counter. I do not tell people to count calories. But if you as a controlled person need to focus on something and count something, I would say count your carbs. 100% carbs and be under 100 a day.
I was going to say, how many carbs a day?
Yeah, about under 100 grams a day. And that's probably going to be hard to do for a lot of people who eat a lot of oatmeal and because they think, oh, my heart needs oatmeal because of the fiber and I need
marketing 101, right?
Yep. Stop watching commercials. Stop watching food commercials. The only people that can afford food commercials are the ones that are genetically modified, mass produced, and are not good for you, probably at all. Right. So just don't watch food commercials.
Well, JJ, this is absolutely wonderful. I mean, you've got 15 chapters. This book is packed full of information. I can't wait to really delve into it and get really into all the different things. You've got to build a program and all the different secrets. So I'm really excited. And you have a support on your website as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I created a 5-month transformation program because I don't know about you, but when I want to get something out of a book, I want to read the book, but I want the book to actually change my life. I don't want to just have a good idea, put the book down, walk away and wonder why it didn't work. And after 20 years, it's just, it's always just kind of frustrating because I didn't write this book so that you could go, oh my God, I'm going to do this one thing. But then like in 2 years, you're going to come back to me and say, well, it didn't work. Well, what didn't work? Well, I haven't really made all that progress. Right. Because my book said it's 5 secrets. There's a step-by-step process that one would go through to have true transformation. And if you're not going to do all 5 steps, then you're probably not going to have true transformation. And so then you can't say the book didn't work because you didn't do it. So I create a 5-month program. It's an online program. For the 5 months, you get constant support from me. You're going to get a Q&A live call once a month and Facebook Live once a month. You get a support group of people who are in there. And the most important part is that every week it's a new lesson. They're little bite-sized lessons that literally take you step by step through the entire book. Every secret. So that you're doing everything so that there's no stone unturned and it's actually leading to the whole transformation process. And it's in specific order for you to get specific results at every month. So the reason why it's 5 months is because every month is a different secret. So month 1 is 4 weeks spent on secret number 1. And then secret number 2 is 4 weeks and so forth and so on. And, but it's also done in such a way that you're not overwhelmed. You're not trying to do it all at one time. You're doing it step by step in a very methodical, deliberate, conscious, mindful way. And so that's what's going on right now is you can do the transformation program that goes with the book. So that's the support that I created because I really care about your transformation. I care that you get results and I care that you understand and sustain them and know all the parts and pieces that you want to incorporate in your life to keep them. I don't want you to just do a diet or a detox and then lose some weight and then be frustrated later or gain it back and not have any idea what's going on. If you can solve this issue, your life will shift dramatically because you'll understand what's needed and you'll have all the tools in place to make sure you get what you want.
And JJ, you have a live event coming up. It's 5 months, you said? I can't remember. We said it when we first started.
The live event is actually in January 12th to the 14th in Los Angeles. I have a very limited amount of seats, but we are selling a virtual ticket as well. But if you're someone who thinks you might want to come to Los Angeles, the live event is called Releasing What Weighs You Down. And it literally is about releasing anything physical, emotional, and spiritual that blocks you from moving forward and releasing the things, the limiting beliefs, the behaviors, the foods, whatever. I mean, it's literally the mind, body, spirit event of the year. And there's going to be healers and teachers and trainers in the room. It's going to be fun. It's going to be transformative. It's going to be community building. And you're going to walk away different than when you got there. I promise. You will uncover some blocks that you have that need to be released. And there's going to be an actual healer there she clears inherited emotional DNA. We're actually going to do a live clearing. So people will actually literally be cleared of at least a few things in that session along with some other things. So that's January 12th to the 14th. Tickets for that are on sale now.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate it.